Don't answer the door. Please, Mrs. Chen. Just trust me. The hospice nurse's hand was shaking as she gripped my wrist. It was 11:47 p.m., and someone was pounding on my front door so hard the hinges rattled. I stared at her, my mind struggling to make sense of what was happening. Nurse Patricia had been coming to my house 3 times a week for the past 6 months to help me care for my husband, Michael. She'd always been calm, professional, almost robotic in her efficiency. But now? Her eyes were wide with something that looked like terror. "Patricia, I don't understand," I whispered. "That's my daughter. Emily always has a key, but maybe she forgot it." The pounding grew louder. "Mom! Mom, open up! It's an emergency! Dad needs to go to the hospital right now." My heart lurched. Michael was sleeping in the bedroom down the hall, his breathing aided by the oxygen machine that had become as familiar as furniture these past months. Stage 4 lung cancer. The doctors had given him weeks, maybe days. Patricia's fingers dug into my arm. "That is not your daughter." The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my legs go weak. "What are you talking about? Of course that's Emily. I'd know my own daughter's voice." "Mrs. Chen, listen to me very carefully." Patricia pulled me away from the door, into the kitchen where the pounding was slightly muffled. "How long has it been since you actually saw Emily face to face? Not on a video call. In person." I opened my mouth to answer and felt the words die in my throat. When was the last time? Emily had moved to Boston for work 8 months ago. We'd done FaceTime calls every week, sometimes twice a week. She'd sent flowers for my birthday, cards for Michael. But physically, in this house? 7 months, I finally said. She couldn't get time off work for Thanksgiving. The flights were too expensive for Christmas. She said she'd come when it gets closer to the end. "Mom." The voice outside was getting desperate, angry. "I can hear you in there. Why won't you let me in? Dad needs help." Patricia pulled out her phone with trembling hands. "Mrs. Chen, I need you to look at something, but you have to stay quiet. Please." She showed me her screen. It was a news article from the Boston Globe, dated 3 days ago. The headline made the room spin. "Local woman identified as victim in harbor drowning. Emily Chen, 34, found after week-long search." The words blurred. I gripped the counter to keep from falling. No, that's not. There must be another Emily Chen. Boston is a big city. This is some kind of mistake. Patricia scrolled down to the photo. And there she was, my daughter, my Emily, her smile. The small scar above her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike at age 7. The tiny mole on her neck that she'd always hated. The date of death was listed as December 8th, 6 days ago. But I'd talked to Emily yesterday. We'd had a video call. She'd told me about her new project at work, complained about Boston traffic, asked how Dad was doing. "Mom, I'm calling 911 if you don't open this door right now. Dad is dying in there." My hands wouldn't stop shaking. "I don't understand. I just talked to her yesterday. We had a whole conversation." "Did you?" Patricia asked quietly. "Or did someone who looks like her have a conversation with you?" "Mrs. Chen, have you noticed anything different about your daughter lately? Even small things?" I thought back, my mind racing. The video calls. Emily always looked tired, she'd said. The lighting in her new apartment was terrible. She'd cut her hair shorter, started wearing glasses, said she'd gained weight from stress eating. But her voice was the same. Wasn't it? "I noticed she stopped calling me Mama," I said slowly. "She always called me Mama since she was little. But these past few months, it's been Mom." I thought maybe that's just what happens when you get older. More professional. Patricia's face was grim. "Mrs. Chen, I need to tell you something. 3 weeks ago, I was assigned to another patient, elderly man, living alone. He died very suddenly one night. Heart attack, they said. His daughter was there when it happened. She was the one who called 911. I don't see what. His daughter had been dead for 4 months. Car accident in Denver. But someone who looked just like her had been visiting him for weeks. She was listed as the beneficiary on his new will, the one he'd signed 2 weeks before he died." The pounding on the door stopped suddenly. In the silence, I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Then my phone rang. Emily's number. "Don't answer it," Patricia said. But my hand moved on its own, muscle memory from decades of motherhood. I pressed the green button. "Mom." The voice was sharp, clipped. Nothing like my Emily's soft tones. "I know you're in there. I know that interfering nurse is filling your head with lies. You need to open the door right now, or I'll have to take legal action. I'm your daughter. I have rights." Legal action. Emily would never threaten me with legal action. "Who are you?" I asked. My voice sounded strange, distant. "What did you do to my daughter?" A pause. Then a laugh, cold and calculated. "Your daughter was very helpful, actually. Did you know she kept a detailed journal? All about her childhood? Her memories with you and Daddy? Even the names of your neighbors? Your favorite restaurants? She made it very easy to become her." I couldn't breathe. The room was tilting. "Here's what's going to happen," the voice continued. "You're going to open that door. We're going to take Michael to the hospital, where he'll pass away peacefully with his loving daughter and devoted wife by his side. You'll be so grateful for my support during this difficult time that you'll want to update your will. Leave everything to me, your only child. And then, in a few months, you'll have a terrible accident, maybe a fall down the stairs. These old houses are so dangerous." Patricia grabbed the phone from my hand and ended the call. "We need to call 911 right now." But before she could dial, we heard a new sound. A key turning in the front door lock. She had a key. Of course she had a key. I'd mailed it to Emily 2 months ago when she'd said she was planning a surprise visit. Patricia pushed me toward the bedroom. "Get Michael. Lock the door. Don't come out until the police arrive." "What about you?" "I'll handle this. Go." I ran down the hall, my slippers sliding on the hardwood floor. Behind me, I heard the front door crash open. Heard Patricia's voice, firm and authoritative. "You need to leave this house immediately. The police are on their way." I burst into Michael's room. He was awake, his eyes confused in the dim light from the oxygen machine. "Linda? What's happening?" "We have to go, baby. We have to hide." I grabbed his wheelchair, my hands fumbling with the brake. "I don't need the wheelchair. I can walk." He started to pull off the oxygen mask, but I stopped him. "No, keep it on, please." I helped him into the chair, my back screaming in protest. When had I gotten so old, so weak? We made it to the bathroom just as I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy footsteps, not Patricia's. I locked the door and pulled the shower curtain across the bathtub, then helped Michael settle behind it. I climbed in next to him, pulling him close. We sat there in the dark, his oxygen machine humming quietly, my heart beating so loud I was sure it would give us away. A voice called from just outside the bathroom door. "Mom? Come out, please. This is ridiculous. I'm your daughter. I have proof. I have all of Emily's memories, all her stories. I know about the time she broke your favorite vase and blamed it on the cat. I know about the secret recipe for your mother's dumplings. I know you used to sing, 'You are my sunshine' every night before bed." The voice was perfect now, exactly like Emily, but the words were wrong. We didn't have a cat when Emily was young. My mother's dumplings were terrible, a family joke, and the song I sang was Edelweiss, not "You Are My Sunshine." She'd studied Emily's journal, but she hadn't lived Emily's life. "Where's Patricia?" I called out. "What did you do to her?" "The nurse is fine. She's just resting in the kitchen. We had a little disagreement about patient care. You know how these medical professionals can be, so controlling." Michael's hand found mine in the dark and squeezed. Even now, dying, he was trying to protect me. "Linda," he whispered against my ear, his voice rough from the oxygen mask. "Remember what I told you about my Navy training? About survival?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "The person who survives is the one who can think clearly in chaos. Don't let fear make you stupid. Think clearly. What did I know? This woman, whoever she was, had been planning this for months. She'd killed my daughter. She'd studied Emily's life, stolen her identity. She'd been video calling me, earning my trust, positioning herself to inherit everything when Michael and I were gone. But she'd made mistakes, the small details that didn't quite match, and she hadn't counted on Patricia. Where was Patricia? The doorknob rattled. "Mom, I'm getting worried about you. You're not acting like yourself. Are you feeling confused? Disoriented? Maybe we should get you to a doctor too. Have you evaluated? The threat was clear. She'd have me declared incompetent, put me in a facility. It would be easy. I was 72 years old, caring for a dying husband. Who wouldn't believe I'd had a breakdown? Then I heard it. Sirens. Faint but growing louder. The doorknob stopped rattling. Footsteps retreated quickly down the hall. I waited, counting my heartbeats. 100, 200. The sirens were loud now, right outside the house. Linda? Mr. Chen? This is Officer Rodriguez with the Portland Police. Are you safe? I unlocked the bathroom door with shaking hands. We're here. We're okay. The officer was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes and a hand resting on his gun. Ma'am, we got a 911 call from a Patricia Morrison. She said there was an intruder in your home posing as your daughter. I started to answer but couldn't find the words. Instead, I just started crying. Great. Heaving sobs that I'd been holding back for the past 10 minutes. Or maybe for the past 7 months, since the real Emily had died and I hadn't even known. Michael wheeled himself out of the bathroom and took over. Officer, my daughter Emily Chen died 6 days ago in Boston, but someone has been impersonating her. Video calls, phone calls. Tonight she tried to break into our house. We found a woman fleeing through the backyard. She's in custody now, and Mrs. Morrison is okay. She has a mild concussion, but she's conscious and giving a statement to my partner. The next few hours blurred together. More police officers, detectives, questions, statements. They brought in a laptop and showed me the video calls I'd had with Emily over the past months. Now that I knew to look for it, I could see the differences. The slightly wrong mannerisms. The way she blinked too much when talking about childhood memories. The practiced quality of her laugh. But it had been so easy to miss. I'd seen what I wanted to see. Heard what I wanted to hear. My daughter, staying in touch despite the distance. Detective Sarah Martinez sat with me in the kitchen while Michael rested in the bedroom with a uniformed officer keeping watch. Mrs. Chen, I need to ask you some questions about your finances. Has anyone asked you to make changes to your will recently? Any unusual withdrawals or transfers? I thought back. Emily, the fake Emily, she'd been encouraging me to simplify things. Said it would be easier for estate planning if I consolidated my accounts. She sent me paperwork from a lawyer. I signed it last week. The detective's face tightened. Do you still have that paperwork? I retrieved it from my desk. She looked through it, her expression growing darker with each page. Mrs. Chen, according to this, you've made Emily Chen, or rather, the person claiming to be Emily Chen the sole beneficiary of your estate, including your life insurance policy, your retirement accounts, and this house. The room felt too small suddenly, too hot. How much? The estimated total is $1.3 million. I'd thought we were comfortable but not wealthy. The house had been bought 40 years ago for $50,000. Michael's Navy pension, my teacher's retirement, the life insurance policy we'd taken out when Emily was born. It had all just accumulated over the decades while we lived our quiet life. $1.3 million. Enough to kill for. There's more, Detective Martinez said. We've identified the woman in custody. Her real name is Sarah Vega. She's wanted in connection with at least 4 other deaths across the country. Always elderly victims. Always someone with an adult child living far away. She finds her victims through grief counseling websites, support groups for people caring for sick relatives. She targets families under stress. How did she know about Emily? We're still piecing that together. But based on what we've found so far, she met your daughter at a grief counseling group in Boston. Emily had joined to help cope with her father's diagnosis. They became friends. Your daughter trusted her, told her everything about her family. Emily, my sweet, trusting Emily, making a friend in a new city, never suspecting that friend was studying her, learning her, planning to become her. The drowning? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. We'll need to investigate further, but given Miss Vega's pattern, it's very unlikely it was an accident. I thought of my daughter's last moments. Did she know what was happening? Did she call for me? Mrs. Chen? The detective's voice was gentle. I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to understand something important. You and your husband are very, very lucky. If Patricia Morrison hadn't recognized Sarah Vega from a previous case she'd read about, if she hadn't acted when she did, we believe Sarah would have killed both of you tonight, made it look natural. Your husband's cancer, your age. No one would have questioned it. Patricia had saved our lives. A hospice nurse who'd been assigned to our case by random chance. Or maybe not chance, maybe something more. The detective stood. We'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to make a formal statement, and we'll need to contact your lawyer about reversing those documents you signed. But for tonight, is there somewhere safe you can stay? Family? Friends? I thought of our empty house. Our neighbors were elderly too, snowbirds who'd left for Arizona 2 weeks ago. Emily had been our only child. We'd lost our siblings years ago. We'll stay here, I said. This is our home. I won't let her take that too. Detective Martinez nodded. I'll have an officer stationed outside for the next few days, just to be safe. Sarah Vega had an accomplice who's still at large. But I don't think you'll have any more trouble tonight. After the police left, after I'd checked and double-checked every lock and window, I sat beside Michael's bed and held his hand. The oxygen machine hummed its familiar rhythm. I should have known, I whispered. I should have felt it. A mother should know. Michael's fingers squeezed mine weakly. You knew when it mattered. When she was at the door, something made you hesitate. Some part of you recognized the lie. But I hadn't hesitated because I'd sensed the truth. I'd hesitated because Patricia had told me to. Without her, I would have opened that door, welcomed a killer into my home, let her take everything. I need to see her, I said suddenly. The real Emily. I need to say goodbye. Michael nodded. I'll go with you. We'll go together. The flight to Boston 3 days later was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Michael was too weak to travel, really, but he'd insisted. Patricia had helped arrange for a portable oxygen concentrator and medical transport at both airports. She'd even offered to come with us, but I'd told her she'd done enough. She'd saved our lives. I could never repay that. At the Boston morgue, a kind woman with gray hair and soft hands led us to a viewing room. She looks peaceful, she said. Take all the time you need. Emily lay on a metal table, covered with a white sheet up to her shoulders. Her face was pale, her lips slightly blue, but she was unmistakably my daughter, my real daughter. I touched her cold cheek and felt something break inside me. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I didn't know. I'm so sorry I kept talking to that monster, thinking it was you. Michael's hand was on my shoulder, his breathing labored even with the oxygen. She knows, Linda. Wherever she is, she knows you loved her. That's what matters. But did she? In those last moments, drowning in Boston Harbor, did Emily think we'd abandoned her? Did she wonder why we weren't there to save her? I stayed with her for 2 hours, telling her everything I wished I'd said when she was alive. About how proud I was of her, how much I admired her courage in moving across the country to chase her dreams. How even though I'd complained about the distance, I'd been thrilled to see her becoming her own person. I told her about her father, about how we were going to fight this together, how we weren't going to let Sarah Vega win. I told her that her death wouldn't be meaningless, that the police were using this case to connect Sarah to other unsolved deaths, that her story would save other families. And I sang to her, Edelweiss, the way I had when she was small. My voice cracked and broke, but I got through every verse. When we finally left, Michael turned to me in the taxi back to the airport. I'm proud of you. Of how strong you've been. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about not falling apart. It's about getting back up afterward. The trial was scheduled for 6 months later. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Jennifer Park, told me that Sarah Vega had confessed to everything, not out of remorse, but because she was proud. Proud of how clever she'd been, how she'd fooled so many people. She sees herself as superior, Jennifer explained. These victims, in her mind, were weak, gullible. They deserved what happened to them. I attended every day of the trial, sitting in the front row where Sarah could see me. I wanted her to know that I wasn't broken, that she hadn't won. Michael couldn't come. He'd passed away 6 weeks after we returned from Boston, peacefully in his sleep, with me holding his hand and Patricia checking his vitals. Natural causes. the cancer that had been killing him long before Sarah Vega entered our lives. On the stand, Sarah's accomplice, a man named David Torres, testified about their operation, how they'd scout victims online, build detailed profiles, study their targets for months before making contact, how they'd killed Emily and staged the drowning, then used her phone and laptop to maintain the illusion that she was still alive. "It was easy," he said, his voice flat. "People see what they want to see. They want to believe their loved ones are safe, happy, thriving, so they ignore the little inconsistencies, the things that don't quite add up." He was right. I had ignored the inconsistencies. The wrong song, the unfamiliar mannerisms, the subtle changes in speech patterns. But Patricia hadn't. Patricia, a hospice nurse who'd seen enough death to recognize its shadow, even in a stranger's eyes. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Murder in the first degree for Emily Chen and 3 other victims. Attempted murder for Michael and me. Fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. When the verdict was read, Sarah didn't react. She just sat there, staring straight ahead, her expression blank. But as they led her out of the courtroom, she turned to look at me one last time, and she smiled. I didn't look away. I held her gaze until she was gone. After the trial, I sold the house. Too many ghosts. Too many memories of that night, of hearing Emily's voice, Emily's stolen voice outside the door, begging to be let in. I moved into a smaller apartment near Patricia's house. We have dinner together twice a week now. She's become the family I have left. On the anniversary of Emily's death, Patricia and I drive to the coast and scatter flowers in the water. We don't talk much. We don't need to. But last year, as we stood on the pier watching the flowers drift away, Patricia said something that stayed with me. "I almost didn't knock on your door that night," she admitted. "I almost convinced myself I was being paranoid, that I was seeing threats where there weren't any. What made you do it?" I thought about all the patients I've lost over the years, all the families I've watched say goodbye, and I realized that the real tragedy isn't death. Death comes for all of us. The real tragedy is being robbed of the chance to choose how we face it. Your husband deserved to die in peace, surrounded by love. You deserve to grieve honestly. Emily deserved to be remembered truly. Sarah Vega was going to steal all of that. She was right. Sarah had already stolen so much. My daughter's life, those last 7 months of believing my child was safe and happy, the chance to say goodbye when it really mattered. But she didn't steal everything. She didn't steal my memories of the real Emily. She didn't steal the 46 years Michael and I had together. She didn't steal my will to keep living, to honor those I'd lost by refusing to let fear win. Sometimes I think about that night, about standing in my kitchen, listening to a stranger pound on my door, wearing my daughter's voice like a costume, about Patricia's hand on my arm, her whispered warning. And I think about all the other families out there facing the same threat. The elderly couple in Florida whose son hasn't actually called in months, the widow in Seattle whose daughter's voice sounds just slightly off on the phone, the grieving father who can't quite place why his son's laugh doesn't sound right anymore. That's why I'm sharing this story. Not for sympathy, not for attention, but as a warning. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Ask questions. Verify. Don't be afraid to seem paranoid or suspicious. Don't let guilt or hope blind you to the truth. Because sometimes, the person at your door isn't who you think they are. Sometimes, the voice on the phone belongs to a stranger. And sometimes, the only thing standing between you and a killer is a hospice nurse with good instincts and the courage to trust them. I still talk to Emily, not the fake one, but my real daughter. I visit her grave every Sunday, tell her about my week, update her on Patricia and the garden I'm planting. I like to think she hears me, that she knows I finally understand what happened, that she knows I never stopped loving her. Not for a single moment. Not even when I was talking to an imposter. Because that's the thing about a mother's love. It doesn't die. It doesn't fade. It doesn't get confused. In the end, when it truly mattered, I knew. And that has to be enough.